supply constraints impact on EXIM trade and inflation for the next few months. Emanating from Russia-Ukraine war will also to have impact on the Indian economy. Mr. Saket Dalmia, the Senior Vice President at PhD Chamber of Commerce and Industry, has joined us today to talk about how India's growth story is going to be. Welcome, Mr. Dalmia. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you so much. The pleasure is all mine.
Thank you. So I would like to ask the first question, that would be, the Indian market has been witnessing a continuous dip since the Russian-Ukraine war has started. How do you foresee the market performing?
So I think very good point. I think as far as the investment market is concerned, especially the stock markets, we all understand that the stock markets always discount whenever there is lack of certainty. So with this kind of high-handedness of Russia, one thing is clear, that's a very bad precedent in the world which is nuclear reliant and capable. And this has created a massive disruption worldwide, especially in the trade environment, obviously apart from the humanitarian aspect. And it's very, very bad for business, because when uncertainty sets in already a very high commodity price cycle, these disruptions will create more havoc, especially in the energy space, that is oil and gas, of which both Russia is one of the largest producers and also the largest exporter in the world. And with this uncertainty in energy costs, already the high commodity cycle will go up further higher. Further geographical barriers will be created, because of which international freight rates will go even worse. So a very, very bad signal for international trade and commerce to begin with. International currencies, the disruption in oil already touching 120, and gas prices all-time high, and freight costs again all-time high. It's very, very detrimental, I think, especially for the small and medium, which have a lack of buffer, having come out of 3 rounds of COVID. And still a lot of uncertainty with them, lack of capital, lack of having a buffer to be able to sustain this kind of even a short-term dip in demand or a rise in input costs of 3 to 6 months also could be a death blow to many. That's my take on this.
Okay, I was about to go on the MSME part, that the war has been impacting the global economy. How is it going to impact the Indian economy as far as the MSMEs are concerned?
So good question. We will all agree that MSMEs create the backbone of our industry, and especially the middle economy companies are one of the key representations of the PhD Chamber of Commerce. So what I'm hearing from my interactions with everybody, big or small, is that the expectation has become gloomy in the short term, where large industries defer their capex plans, large industry defers all their long-term buying plans. Their feeders are usually these medium and small companies who specialize in something or the other. Maybe an intermediate product, maybe a finished product, which they are supplying to the large companies. So when the long-term plans of large companies come on a hold, MSMEs are in a poorer position to plan ahead. That means that their expectation for demand becomes less. Their desire to employ becomes less. They will employ less aggressive steps in their working. And they will be more risk averse, like they were during the COVID period which we have passed, as opposed to coming back to normalcy.
India do EXIM trade with both the countries. So how the EXIM trade is going to get impact? What will be the challenges that Indian economy have to face?
Good point. So in many ways, Russia and its neighboring countries have had a good trade relationship with India for a long time. And several Indian companies have found good markets in those places, in some specialty or the other. So I think as far as the exports is concerned, it's going to hurt a lot of companies. Maybe the entire scale of trade in terms of absolute numbers is not very large when it comes to India's trade partnering with Russia as compared to India's trade partnering to America or the entire Europe. That might not be a big absolute number, but there are several small companies running to thousands which will be impacted in exports as well as imports. And especially, I think, at the cost of being repetitive, energy companies or energy reliant companies from Russia, finding alternate payment mechanisms makes the whole system opaque, more momentary driven as opposed to planning ahead. So, these things in the end affect the entire volume of trade.
Yeah, as we are talking about the exim trade, how the rising prices of raw oil and petrol, diesel, if we talk about imports, and wheat and steel in export trades will affect the businesses in Indian economy as well as the public.
I think petrol prices in India are going to go up.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's going to drive up inflation. Government doesn't have many options but to increase prices because they will have under recovery. And it's going to affect all our lives, right from a toothpaste to a car. It's going to affect everything because everything needs transportation. Logistic cost is going to go up. Manufacturing costs are going to go up because of energy costs going up. So it's a bad symbol, I think, in general for the whole world, including India.
As we know that several international firms have boycotted the Russian market. Also, the London Stock Exchange has also boycotted, I think, 27 firms related to Russian market. So how and what opportunities this could open for the Indian market as far as the global opportunities are concerned?
Good question. So when it comes to opening opportunities, I think when these kind of symbolic barriers are being put on very wealthy Russians across the world, where we hear about super yachts being taken over by state governments, where we listen to Russian oligarchs being forced to sell their businesses across the world. I think as far as the opportunity for an Indian businessman is concerned, is not anything which is visible in the long term for Indian companies. Even so, I think it works badly because all these people are business people. They're buying or selling something or the other from our economy. And business is being done by private enterprise in most parts of the world. So we as exporters will suffer because buying will be less. We as importers will have uncertainty of supply from Russian companies spread across the world. So Indian companies who are reliant on export or import with Russians and Russian companies will suffer. For example, wheat prices have gone up 25% higher in the world.
Yes.
India throws this grain every year. It stinks in our warehousing because we have created a huge buffer. And I was reading that we have started exporting, or probably we are thinking of. So one good thing, our agricultural sector will get a good boost. And I think because of our trade ties with Russia and Ukraine being good, there is going to be lack of food grain there. There's going to be lack of a lot of essential commodities there. So in terms of war profiteering, unfortunately, I would have to say that word. We will have an opportunity to fill in those gaps once the economy stabilizes. And in terms of manufacturing, so Ukraine was manufacturing many important products across the world. And their destruction will open opportunities for niche Indian companies.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dalmia, for joining with us. It was a great and loaded with information chat. So thank you for joining with us.
Thank you. My pleasure. Anytime. Take care.
Thank you.